Happy Mushoku Mondays, everybody. Welcome back to yet another trek through Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation novel series. We're on volume 20, Interlude. I can't say chapter, Interlude. In the terms of Mushoku Tensei, Interlude. Okay, that was a dumb joke. Welcome, everybody, to the premiere. Hey, chat. Hope you guys are doing well. Hey to everybody that drops by for the VOD later on. Thank you guys so much for your kind words, your support, being here, supporting me through this journey through Mushoku Tensei. And yes, as per usual, greatly appreciate everybody that supports the channel monetarily through Patreon, tips, links, super thanks, memberships, all that good stuff. Last week we had, I don't even know how to say this. I'm going to say Goods McDizzle, I guess. Thanks for the super. Joshua with a super, Nicholas with 50 gifted memberships, unlocking more emotes, and yes, thank you for the supers as well. Roy's Moist with a super, Zydonix with a gifted membership, Kusha with a super, and Inferno Torch with a super. Thank you guys so much for the support. It means so much to me. But yes, let's just get into it. I guess ask and thou shalt receive. I was talking the previous Mushoku Monday how I want an update with all the characters like Norn, Aisha, Lilia, Zenith, all those characters, and we got one character I wasn't really expecting. And additionally, yes, we got a little bit of insight into Norn and Aisha, updating us on them as well, which is fantastic. It was just a good set of two chapters. These two interlude chapters were a lot of fun. But yeah, with that said, let's just jump right into it. I don't even have it on my screen right now, so I need to bring it up. Interlude, a country bumpkin visits the city. Again, this was a surprise. I wasn't even expecting this, but it's kind of one of those aspects of bringing a character into the picture that we haven't seen for a long time and going, oh, yeah, this is how contrasting the current characters are to literally volumes ago. It was summer when a letter arrived to the Sword King. Arrived at the Sword King Nina Fallion's doorstep. Yes. Grats, Nina Fallion. The moment I read that, I'm like, what? What? Like a double take. What? That was really cool. Congrats. Grats in the chat. Grats in the chat. The sword god Galfallion had already left the training hall for his napping spot, claiming, I forgot his voice. You gotta be an idiot to train on a day this nice, so you all can do whatever you feel like doing today. Being a teacher's pet, Nina's idea of doing whatever she felt like was practicing, of course. Still, the arrival of the letter caught her attention. It was a letter with the emblem of the water god style and a familiar name, Isolde Kuhl, the leading swordsman of the water god style. That's an interesting note there. It says leading swordsman of the water god style. Now, yes, it technically, I think, claims her as being an emperor at some point, and it's like, but what happened to all the other water gods that were actually seeking the same position of Rada? They let her keep it because of this unique style that she had, but wouldn't one of them take that position, like, almost immediately? I guess nobody has claimed the title yet. It's kind of interesting. The leading swordsman of the water god style, whom Nina had trained with just a few years ago. Nina recalled that she was now in the Asura Kingdom, working as a sword fighting instructor, while also managing the water god style training ground. Their relationship was friendly, but they had grown distant after Isolde left. The letter was a pleasant surprise. Nina giddily opened the letter. It's just like one of those funny moments of like, why is she even like, yeah, let me check it out. And she's like, oh, I can't even read it. What's the point? I guess Edis did the same thing. But the sparkle in her eye dimmed. While she could piece together an acquaintance name, she didn't reach the level of comprehending entire passages. It never really came up here in the Sword Sanctum. Heading to the backyard, there were a few apprentices taking in the sunshine while chatting away. It was typically her job to scold them whenever they looked like they were slacking off, so they hurriedly stood up straight and got their excuses in order. However, today was a rare day where the master had told them explicitly to take the day off, so Nina said nothing about their behavior, instead asked if anyone could read. She handed over the letter to one that claimed he could sort of read the human language. The contents of the letter were quite simple. It summed up the past year's happenings, Rada's death, the struggles of managing a training ground, Isolde's intense quarrel with Ghislaine as a sword instructor. Nina smiled at that detail. She could imagine the orderly, straight-laced Isolde fuming at one of Ghislaine's wild remarks. But that smile turned serious when they reached the final message. Her Majesty Ariel's coronation will soon be held. The entire month is a grand nationwide festival. I'd love you to come visit for the occasion. With that, Nina resolved to travel to the Asura Kingdom. There was no debate. The sword god style preached that the first one to make a move would be the victor for a reason. The main streets of Ars, the capital of the Asura Kingdom, was flooded with people. People from around the world arrived for the upcoming coronation. Countryside folks hoping to glimpse the new ruler. Nobles there with their blessings in the name of diplomacy. Wandering swordsmen who figured this would be the perfect time to find work at the palace. Adventurers looking for high-paying jobs from the guild. Outlaws who were on the run, looking to hide amongst the forest people. Merchants hawking their wares to the crowds. Every single race that lived in the central continent, and some that were from beyond. Topping it all off, the White Knights of the Asura Kingdom were holding a parade. Yeah, I have to say, this is kind of a weird way to get this whole coordination kind of sussed out. Now, I'm not sure if the later chapters might actually get back into this to see what we actually had happen with Rudius's perspective, but it kind of covers everything that Rudius was doing there. He came there to, be there for the coronation, and additionally to speak to seemingly important individuals about joining Orsted's corporation, or at least supporting Orsted Corporation. So I kind of like this. I do actually like the idea of not always having to follow Rudius's perspective while seeing him do what he needs to do, just to kind of mix it up. In the middle of it all, Nina was turned this way and that as she attempted to walk towards the center of the city. It was the first time in her life that she'd seen so many people. She had been in towns that she thought was pretty big, but seeing a crowd of people this massive dwarfed her imagination and left her dumbstruck. After she bumped into a man and he cursed her out, he quickly disappeared in the flood of the crowd. Being a sword king, she had sharpened senses that allowed her to identify someone and track them if she wanted to. But she figured this kind of rudeness was a greeting in the city. Talk about a country bumpkin. If this was the Sword Sanctum, she would have sent anyone who talked that way to her to the healer. Perhaps here, in the capital, being cussed at didn't necessarily mean someone wanted to fight. Now, I can kind of agree that. It's just somebody being, tough and getting angry at somebody bumping into them. But, yeah, I guess there's a contrast here that she did technically pick up on. Suddenly, a merchant called out to Nina. We already got signs of Rudius's new marketing campaign. There was a side of me that thought that they were going to actually reveal this was some person that Rudius knew. So I was like, do I need to know a certain voice? Hey there now, pretty lady. Wouldn't you like to have a look? Pretty? Who, me? Oh, but of course. Never before have I seen someone as beautiful as you. By the way, ma'am, you seem to be new to the capital, no? Yes. However, did you know? Huh? Oh, you're not a local. Getting flustered by a crowd like this is the truest sign of an out-of-towner. Hearing that she'd been bumbling along like a country bumpkin made Nina's face turn beet red. She thought that she'd played it cool in the big city, but to real city folk, her idea of big city was still in the sticks. It sure is a huge crowd. I guess everyone's here for the coronation? That's part of it, of course. But today's also the night's parade, so everyone's gathered in the main street. I see. You saw those signs, right? They said that anyone who wants to see the parade should go to the main street, while those that don't should take the back road. South 10th Street. Sorry, but I can't read. I see, indeed. If you have no need to see the parade, then perhaps you should come by our store. It's quite easy to enter the South 10th Street from the back door. Are you sure? But I can't pay the toll. Oh, I wouldn't dream of charging it. That's right. If you say you can't read, then I suggest you purchase one of our products. It's a picture book, bundled with a figurine. But the end of the book teaches you how to read it. Rave reviews. I can't really afford a book. Oh, worry not. Absolutely no worries. Our books are far, far less expensive than what you'd find elsewhere. A mere 2 Osrin large copper. Nay, I feel this must be some sort of fate, so I'll lower it to a single Osrin large copper and 8 small copper coins. What say you? Before she knew it, Nina was standing in a considerably cleared out road, holding a book and a figure. She'd been bowled over by the salesman's rapid patter. While she'd been pressed to buying something, it wasn't an entirely negative feeling. The speed of the merchant's strikes reminded her of her own training with the sword god. While the 1 large copper coin and 8 copper coins was cheap by book market standards, it was still quite expensive for the standards of her wallet. I'm assuming that Rudius is doing something that probably keep the price down. That would probably be a massive part of the whole thing. If his goal isn't to make money, but it is to get the book out there, to get the figurine out there, then they wouldn't want it to be too expensive. And yeah, typically with settings like this, books are pretty much just for nobles. And so yeah, it makes sense why Nina's like, what, a book? Hey, no, I can't afford a book. Books are expensive. Books are for rich people. So yeah, this right here is a sign that he's seemingly trying to keep it pretty low. However, that merchant had shown her the way, so not paying her debt to him would have tarnished her name. It was for the best, she thought. Walking Salton Street, it was cut 2 meters deeper into the ground of the main streets. It was a bit damp and abutted plenty of tunnels. It felt like a shortcut for townies instead of tourists. She figured that she could make it to Isolde's training hall by nightfall now, making the money she spent worth it. The figure was a demon that held a spear, while the book had the same character drawn on it, the hero presumably. Oddly enough, he was a Superd race. Nina didn't know what kind of story it told, but as a warrior, she always wanted to battle a Superd. According to our friend Edis, the Superd were incredibly strong. If Edis, the mad dog who radiated a menace that could scare a devil, spoke of the Superd with respect, then Nina was intrigued. Also, it'll teach her. I might as well keep track of where I'm at in this thing. Nina. Pretty me? Apparently she likes compliments like that. Again, being a sword training hall, it's yeah, I guess you have little romance going on there, so people paying compliments of looks is probably unheard of. It is. Gosh, we're going to be doing a lot of this. Also, it'll teach me. Really, dude? Really? Again, that's another, autocorrect picks that up. I better hold my spot because I'm going to open it up in a minute. Also, If it'll teach her to read like the merchant said, it wouldn't hurt to give it a study in between practice sessions. Continuing on, she heard crowds cheering for the parade. She wondered about the parade, but wanted to meet with Isolde first. Suddenly, a redhead woman caught her eye. Edis? Why would she be here? Nina followed the woman with her eye. Sure enough, it was her. Her posture made it certain. While Nina was uncertain why she was there, nostalgia welled up in her heart. Attempting to call out her name, something made her swallow her words. It was the girl Edis lifted on her shoulders. Up you go, Lucy. Can you see? Yep, it's all sparkly. Come on, Edis. I wanted to give her a shoulder ride. No way. I know you just want to slobber all over Lucy's thighs, just like you did to me last night. Rude. I wouldn't dream of doing something like that to my own flesh and blood daughter. Oh, sure you wouldn't. I mean, it's true. I love her enough that I'd want to slobber all over them. Dude, really? Anyways, she was speaking to a man next to her. Nina has seen this man before, back during the awful encounter that she had with the Demon King Bodyguardi. He was a magician who defeated him in a single blow. He was the man who was lately known as the right hand of the Dragon God, with sightings of him being reported around the world. Rudius Grey Rat. Yeah, it's kind of funny to hear that he's being reported around the world, because yeah, that's what he was doing with Orsid, is just teleporting everywhere and doing jobs, and so apparently word's getting back that he's getting around a lot, which does make you kind of wonder if there is rumors getting around and reports that he is all over the place and he's able to do that so fast. Eventually somebody's gonna be like, this dude's gotta be teleporting. Nina realized she was processing a major shock. She knew that Edis had gone back to Rudius to help him against the Dragon God, and since the letters stopped coming after that, Nina was certain the two of them had been killed. But she'd also heard rumors that they had appeared together in the Oscar Kingdom. Rudius became known as the right hand of the Dragon God after that, so Nina assumed that Edis had surrendered to the Dragon God as well. Nina was sure that she had grown strong, far stronger than before, but the Edis that Nina was looking at right now was far removed from the one that she had imagined. This Edis was joking and laughing with a man, and the girl that she had on her shoulders was likely her daughter. I guess from that distance she can't see that she got pointy ears. It never occurred to Nina that Edis could have gotten married, much less mothered a child. The Edis that she knew, that untamed beast, that mad dog, was now doing this. Coming to watch a parade and flirting with a clearly beloved husband. I'll just go see Isolde. With that thought, Nina looked away. There's like a side of this whole thing that was like, is it like she's disappointed? I mean, truth be told, yes, the obvious thing that was in my mind at this point was that, yes, she's jealous. But there was another side of this, is almost seeing that she's disappointed in Edis. Like, she allowed herself to be tamed and turned domestic by this man, and no longer her rival. I mean, technically, Nina, Isolde, Edis, they were kind of rivals. They were a triangle of rivalry. Now, yes, I was more seeing it as Nina and Edis, but still, there is like a sense here that there could have been disappointment in her becoming domesticated. But yes, obviously, it's because she's mad and jealous that she found somebody, which is what she was doing back in those chapters before. With that thought, Nina looked away. She had thought that becoming a Sword King meant that she was finally on equal footing with Edis, but she was now left to bear this massive sense of defeat. There it is. Nina didn't see it, but this was important. Just out of Nina's sight, obscured by the crowd, Roxy and Sylphie were next to them, with Zenoba and Julie close by. Where's Ginger? Where the hell's Ginger? And yes, where's the other two kids? Anyways, I guess Lilia and Aisha could be looking after them. Afterwards, Nina headed to Isolde's training hall. The solemn atmosphere and stench of sweat calmed her nerves. She's like, yes, I'm back to my comfort zone. Sweat and no love. After greeting Isolde, Nina was introduced to the students. Every single one of them carried the honest, humble air that comes from never getting laid. It assured her that this was how a true practitioner of the blade should be. Without children, pretty much. It's like, who is your dad? Your dad is a sword god. And you think that it comes with having no children? Okay. Where did you think it came from? A stork? I guess she could have been adopted, but I doubt it. After a tour, Nina was brought to Isolde's house, once owned by the water god Reda. They made arrangements for Nina to stay there while in Ars. While Nina was unconcerned about Reda, she was instead relieved that Isolde showed no signs of having a man. She was the water emperor, sword instructor, and a knight. Isolde would have been a real catch. If even Edis could be married with children, then the radiant Isolde could have easily gotten a partner. It was enough that she was preparing herself to be introduced to a family the moment she came to her home. Just as Nina set her luggage down, Isolde asked if she'd come to a get-together after the parade. Nina wasn't sure what this get-together was, but it seemed like Minnie wanted to meet the Sword King. She agreed immediately, having no other plans, but she would soon regret this decision. Of course, her train of thought made several stops before arriving at regret. It started off that something was off. This was when Isolde brought her to a giant mansion near the royal castle. It was big for a small get-together. Her next thought was, I've been had. This was when she was brought to a fancy-looking room and given a fancy dress. This was definitely some kind of party for nobles. She then came to the question why she came, why she agreed, why she was so naive, why she allowed herself to get dressed up without putting up a fight. She would normally fought to freedom, so why hadn't she? It must have been that she wasn't her normal self. She was wrapped up in an unfamiliar dress, made to wear high heels that affected her balance, and she was stripped of her sword. This was a state that Nina was in when Isolde dragged her into the party ballroom, introduced her to person after person. Completely out of her norm. It kind of makes me mad they didn't have a full picture of all these characters, because I can even talk about how Edis was all nice and dressed up, and it's like, could you have not given us like a cool color insert for all this? Come on. Nina soon realized something that gave her a scrap of relief. Not everyone here was a noble. Many came from the worlds that Nina understood. A humble-born knight, young headshot mage, pulled from another country, and many who were tricked to come there as well. I'm not the only one that was tricked to come here. She remembered that she was a Sword King. It was nothing to analyze her opponents and measure victory. Once she confirmed the surrounding people were weaklings, she felt a bit bold. Being that practitioners of the Sword God style were all heavy eaters, she found herself hungry. Not eating anything since noon, outside of training in the woods, she never skipped meals. After attacking the cuisine laid out in the ballroom, as party-goers stared, she made a retreat to the nearest bathroom with the guide of a maid. It's like she literally comes in there and she's like, this is completely out of my normal. And she's got these high heels and I could totally see her like clumping around and being unbalanced. And she just doesn't like that she got tricked here. And then the moment that she kind of settles down and looks around, she's like, she analyzes everybody and is like, I can beat them all. Let me go eat. I might as well eat. Afterwards, Nina struggled to get her dress back on. The maid was long gone before she finished, but she managed in the end. Unfortunately, she found herself lost in a maze of a mansion, with no idea how to get back to the ballroom. This was all, of course, inevitable. This was all messing her up. She sighed to herself before trudging down the dimly lit hall. She'd been continuously overwhelmed by the atmosphere since arriving in the Asura Kingdom, and it kept her off balance and a bit disassociated. Her belief she could take on the world now that she was a Sword King was in shambles. I'd used to do things without needing to think so much. Maybe it was because she was a Sword King with disciples now, or maybe because she ran into Edis and her personality rubbed off on her. Unlike the old days, she couldn't act without thinking about consequences anymore. She believed that this change had made her a better warrior. But, oh right, I forgot to tell Isolde about Edis. Edis was in the city, so Nina wanted to suggest another training session with the three of them. But the moment she considered it, the image that she had seen that afternoon flashed across her mind. She shook her head to put it out of mind. This whole little segment right here is kind of interesting because, again, the base story here that seems to be the butt of a joke is Nina realizing that, which is, again, is something they were setting up a long time ago. She was so focused on train, and love was out of question. And there was like this whole thing with Edis obviously being obsessed with Rudius that she just didn't want to do that because you have to focus on your training. Even the idea of her getting with her cousin wasn't even in the question mark there because it was focused on swordsmanship. But it's sort of right here kind of going in a direction also that because she was become a Sword King, because she has disciples now, it almost as if she figured that she had achieved something. She got somewhere. She had confidence. She can take on anything. This is in-game. I have reached in-game. I'm getting there. I have achieved something. Now, granted, she still has Emperor and even to take her father's title. But this is like in-game. And it almost seems as if she's suddenly now questioning herself because she's out of her comfort zone. She's been so focused in the Sword Sanctum that she doesn't even know about the outside world. And there is something that probably comes from that. It's meeting people and experiencing things. Experiencing the outside world where it's not all in this bottle that she's been stuck in. That wasn't the Edis she knew anymore. She wanted to forget it, to get back to the ballroom as soon as possible, to give some flimsy excuse to head home. The mansion might have been uncomfortable, but there was plenty of other famous sights to see in Asura Kingdom. She could have a soul to show her around. No, her friend was sure to be busy, so she would have to explore on her own. The town had some kind of festival going on, so she could surely find a way to amuse herself. Perhaps she could visit the town's Sword God training hall. Suddenly, Nina seen a room with light peeking out from it. The door was small, certainly not one that led to the ballroom. Still, there was likely someone there that knew the way. Feeling half relieved, she approached the door. Your Majesty, Ariel, surely you don't want that to be made public, now do you? Nina stopped in her tracks, hearing a clear threat. We all knew what this was. Now, there's something else here. You guys are going to be, I don't know, some people might be following my mindset here, but there's something that I got from this that I was like, please don't do this. Please don't do this. Nina stopped in her tracks, hearing a clear threat. She realized that it may be Ariel and Amoy Asura. Even a country bumpkin like Nina knew that only one person in the country was addressed that way. The queen, whose meteoric return to royalty after spending nearly a decade in a distant Renoa kingdom, captivated the hearts of her people. Oh, whatever could you possibly mean? Are you saying you don't remember? Nina approached the door lightly. Once there, she peeked through the crack of the door. Inside was a man and a woman. The blonde woman sitting in the chair, and a light brown-haired man standing at her side. The man was Rudius Greyrat. Oh, please. That could be anything. Oh, no. In fact, gone was the man who laughed with Edis that afternoon. He drew his devilish smile closer to Ariel's cheek. A thought struck Nina. He's pressuring her into carnal relations. Rudius was known for having 2 wives, in addition to Edis. Nina remembered rumors about him being rather amorous as well. Word on the street was that he'd also done a lot of work behind the scenes for Ariel. If he really was under Orsted's command, then he'd likely assisted Ariel as Orsted's pawn, and now he was blackmailing her to sleep with him. Yeah, that was like a side of this, like, wow, she actually drew some really good conclusions there. It's like, I'm not going to give Nina too much credit. I mean, she doesn't seem like she's like a genius or anything like that, but she's drawing these conclusions, which is pretty good. But no, before it got into this whole thing where she thinks that he's trying to get her to sleep with him, there was a side of me that's like, oh, please don't turn this into one of those things where, I don't know, the man god found this one rare race that has people that can transform into other people. Like, they can change their form and make themselves look like somebody. And here we are. The man god has contacted them, have them shapeshift into Rudius, and have him, I don't know, take down Ariel or something like that. Thus, Rudius becomes the enemy of the state, and he has to clear his name because somebody shapeshifted into him. I was like, please, Refugian, don't do this storyline. Please don't do this storyline. I've seen it too many times in JRPGs. I don't need to see it in this, which has a lot of JRPG jokes in it. But still, please don't. Nina was ready to kill him in an instant. No need to think. She didn't know the secret that Ariel was being blackmailed with, or how strong Rudius was. Isolde was under Ariel's command. If the boss of her friend was being blackmailed, then there was no reason for her to stay her blade. She didn't have her sword, but this would be the point where Nina, if she'd felt like herself, would tell herself to wait a moment. But the last few hours had taxed her past her capacity for self-control. Before she could act, however, her senses altered her to the aura of animosity behind her. Altered her? Her senses altered her? I think that's supposed to be alerted her to an aura behind her. I guess you can use altered? Question mark? Yeah, altered her. Nina's senses altered her. It should be alerted. I don't know. Maybe volume 20. Maybe volume 20 is them on their off game. Her senses alerted her to an aura of animosity behind her. She reeled herself around to a monster in a blood-red dress. Edis? Nina hadn't thought Edis would be there, but she was always at Rudius' side. Nina? Edis' expression slacked for a moment to one of suspicion, but her fury soon returned. Want to tell me who you're aiming all that bloodlust at? Crap, Nina thought. There was no stopping Edis when she got like this. If they clashed, Rudius would come running from that room. She was risking a 2-on-1 fight. Edis might not have a sword, but being pincered with a mage would be difficult. Huh? Back already, Edis? Suddenly, the worst-case scenario happened. As she was in thought, the door popped open, and Rudius popped his head out. Nina instantly understood that victory was off the table. But facing the impossible with the tenacity of a wild beast was at the core of the sword god style. Nina began to concentrate her strength to her core. Now then, Sir Rudius, I believe it's time for us to join the party. We're keeping our guests waiting. When Ariel appeared next to Rudius, as nonchalant as could be, all of Nina's strength unraveled. Ariel's expression didn't belie a hint of desperation or intimidation. Something was wrong here, again. That was the feeling that Nina had grown quite familiar with over the past few hours. She's out of her zone. She's so out of her comfort zone. And I think that's kind of an interesting thing to kind of really get into. I mean, that's sort of what we see with Edis quite a lot, is that idea of her training and just not really being socially capable. But that's a lot of characters in Mushoku Tensei, even if they aren't like Edis or Nina, where they're spending a long time of their life just doing nothing but training and having just a lack of social skills. But still, it is a kind of interesting look into somebody who literally has never been in a big city. It's not just the country bumpkin aspect. Again, it's really somebody that just doesn't really know how to normally socially interact with people, doesn't know normal cues. Like, even though the guy bumped into her and cussed her out, it's like, you don't even know that it kind of can be both. It can kind of be both. Were you not being blackmailed? She asked as she folded in on herself. Ariel looked at Nina's stance and simply tilted her head. Nina and Ariel had never met, but after comparing Nina's posture and expression to Edis's and reflected a bit, Ariel pieced together what was going on. Oh no, I was the one who made a request to Rudius, which he refused. I nevertheless wanted his assistance, and so presented what I thought would be a weakness of his, but he outmaneuvered me. Could it be that you listened to the later half of this exchange? Presumed that I was being threatened, and were coming to my rescue? Nina nodded weakly, with her eyes still wide. Ariel lightly held Nina's arm and helped her up with care. Thank you very much. I don't believe we met. My name is Ariel Anamoy Asra, the incoming ruler of the Asra Kingdom. Huh? Here was the future leader of the kingdom in all her glory, and she still felt it necessary to exchange introduction. Unable to process the events, Nina panicked and turned to Edis. Edis eyed her with suspicion, but then sighed and threw her a bone. This here's Nina. An acquaintance of yours, Lady Edis? Yeah. She's a sword saint, Nina Fallion. We trained together back at the Sword Sanctum. Nina headed off Edis's explanation. I'm a Sword King now. The same as you. Oh, you are? Congrats. Oh, you are? Cool. After that faint praise, Nina fell silent. It made it look like she was boasting about her title for no reason. All she wanted was to give a little context. I see. Lady Nina, rest assured, tonight's party was planned by Rudius and me. I believe we'll have a chance to talk later, but for now, please relax and enjoy the evening. Oh, right. Ariel smiled warmly and walked down the hall with Rudius. After seeing them off, Nina let out a massive sigh. This day kept throwing her off. This poor girl. Nina turned to face her old friend. Her crimson dress and updo suited her. All her other jewelry was muted and tasteful. Subtle hallmarks of a real lady. Edis, your dress, looks nice. Of course it does. Rudius picked it out for me. There was that spark. Edis hadn't changed that much after all. It was hard to imagine this proud woman who now puffed out her chest was the same wild animal as before. But still, Nina sighed and started unloading on Edis. You gotta listen to this. So, Isilda... It's so great. It's so great. She didn't want to... It's like one of the sucky things. Like, when she first seen him, she should have called out to her and got with her then. There was a good chance that if she didn't bump into Edis at this party, or Edis didn't even come here... Again, it was what he threw, so obviously she wouldn't be there. But if she didn't come to this party... Like, if she told Isilda, look, I'm tired, I don't want to come to this get-together, whatever it is, there was a good chance that she never would have gone out to see Edis. Now, she said that she was going to tell Isilda, but there's a chance that she'd never run into her. And then she would have missed out on this great little reunion of them, which is really cool because later on they actually get together and do some stuff. But yeah, the conversation that they were having, which again, I think is obviously put in a context that's, super bad. Like she even says, you caught the later half of it. But even still then, I'm curious, what is the train of conversation here? Your Majesty, Ariel, surely you don't want that being made public now, do you? Whatever could you possibly mean? Are you saying you don't remember? And then she says that, oh, well, I tried to give him something that would, his weakness. I was going to play off of his weakness. Something that I thought that he's weak with. But it still doesn't make sense. So it could just be purposely made in a way that sounds like he's blackmailing her. That's why Nina picks up on it. But it's what would he have that she wouldn't want to be made public that could mess with him? Except for maybe the whole situation with Orsted. But they're about to go out there to tell everybody that they're working for Orsted. And they already know that she has connection with Orsted. Or people are presuming that because this guy showed up out of nowhere and just murdered Rada in the middle of this ballroom. I don't know. It just sounds like it's purposely made to sound really evil, even though it's not. In the end, Nina never quite figured out what the party was for. When she and Edis returned to the ballroom, she found Rudius addressing the crowd. The dragon god Orsted is your ally. Act now, and we'll include this as our bonus gift absolutely free. Worry not. There is no fee for signing up. All we ask that you simply gather your strength in preparation for the war in 80 years. And when the time comes, lend that strength to Dragon God Orsted. If you make this tiny commitment, the Orsted Corporation will guarantee its support for the next 100 years. The Dragon God Orsted will save you from your darkest hour. From perils ranging from prophecies of shady, godlike figures, all the way to the terrors of home invasion. Please, a vote for Dragon Orsted is a vote for a bright future. So I get into some stupid, presidential campaign or prime minister campaign or something like that. It's like, what the heck? It is kind of funny, though, because like he's guaranteeing that Dragon God Orsted will protect them for 100 years afterwards. I wonder. I mean, the question mark is, does Orsted get unlocked from his loop the moment that the man god dies and he lives on from that point? Or does he perish at that point? I mean, there's no guarantee that Dragon God Ors is going to be around or even want to stick around and help all these people with their problems after the man god's dead. So it makes me think that Rudius is just making up crap. He's just making up crap. Nina couldn't follow what he was saying, so she simply nodded along. Rudius seemed to be gathering allies. Assuming that earlier encounter really was a misunderstanding, then she wasn't opposed to helping Edis's husband. Nina didn't quite understand what he wanted, though. A war would break out in 80 years, so they wanted them to assist Orsted when that time came, which meant that he wanted them to gather strength until then. That was a little elaborate. Now here's a curious thing. In that speech, which we could have missed part of that speech, he does not mention Laplace. That's an interesting thing there. He's saying, prepare for a war. Prepare to help Dragon God Orsted, and we'll help you. So he is at least framing it in a way of, you know, join this whole thing, support him, and he'll support you, which is a big deal. If you have the support of the Dragon God Orsted, that sounds pretty incredible. But at the same time, there's a question marks of how you contact him. And yes, what for? He's just saying prepare for this one battle. He's going to need your help in 80 years when that war comes in 80 years. But he never mentions Laplace. You would think, I guess they're specifically choosing not to say Laplace because people won't believe it. No, Laplace is gone. Laplace is sealed away. He's gone. He's good. We don't have to worry about him. Now again, because the public believes that Laplace is sealed, then he could simply say, the Dragon God Orsted, with his power and his prophecy, sees that the seal will be broken in 80 years. He doesn't even have to say, you know, he's going to be reborn or whatever. Just say the seal will be broken in 80 years. It has come to be prophesied. We need to prepare. There is going to come a war. I need your help. But again, he's specifically avoiding saying Laplace, and I wonder if that's for a reason. I would think they would get a lot more support if they said, hey, remember back then? Laplace devastated the world. It's coming back. And again, he was just sealed. He can come free. I think more people would want to support them than just saying, help Dragon God Orsted because he'll help you. It's curious. Nina wasn't alone. Many other guests appeared to be similarly confounded. But in the end, everyone nodded. It probably helped that not a single person in the room would turn down Ariel. Yeah, that's it. After that, Nina crashed to the mansion at Edis's suggestion. Isolde joined them. It turned out the entire place was a gift that Ariel gave Rudius, so they were free to use it as they wish, or so Edis boasted. That night, the three of them reunited for the first conversation in years. Edis continued to talk about nothing but Rudius. Isolde grumbled about how she wanted to find a partner of her own. Seeing those two bounce off each other somehow reminded Nina of the old days. The contents about what they talked about might have changed, but the fun that she had in their presence hadn't changed a bit. That alone made Nina's trip worth it, and by the time the next day arrived, her silly sense of jealousy and defeat had waned. She felt like her old self. Nina sampled everything Ars had to offer until the conclusion of the festivities. When Isolde couldn't go due to work, for some reason, Edis stuck with Nina the whole time. Edis would blabber about Rudius every time she opened her mouth, so Nina had to wonder why Edis wasn't sticking with her husband instead. But after spending so much time with her, Nina began to understand Edis' thought process. She wanted Nina to seriously accept Rudius' proposition. Edis wasn't great with words, which made it harder to follow what her point was, but her earnest, straightforward spirit moved Nina's heart. Rudius' request went from incomprehensible gibberish, so something she now seriously considered. Oh my gosh, dude. Oh my gosh. I'm going to stop looking at these. I just have to look. Like, I just can't not help myself but confirm it. And then I want you guys to confirm it too. My gosh, dude, it's so bad. Half the time I'm just blown away that it actually happened. Incomprehensible gibberish. So something she now... It's supposed to be 2. 7 C's. Rudius' request went from incomprehensible gibberish to something she now seriously considered. That's like, what, 3 now in this one chapter? Nina returned to the Sword Sanctum after the coronation finished. She did some thinking along the way about how she agreed to join Orsh's forces in 80 years, about how happy, bright, and cheerful Edis looked, and how Rudius stood right next to her. She didn't commit to it fully, but when she seen her cousin at the entrance, something clicked. Gino Britz,
was a young man following in her footsteps to becoming a sword saint, and was now on the verge of reaching Sword King. Nina took one look at him and said the first thing that came to mind. No hesitation. Sword God style, preached that the first one to make the move was a victor for a reason. Hey Gino, want to get married? Shortly after, the Sword Sanctum was home to a new married couple. But that's a story for another time. I almost expected it. It's like it was home to a new married couple, but it wasn't them because Gino turned her down because Gino said no. Okay. Congratulations, Nina, I guess. Keeping it in the family. I mean, technically, Rudius and Edis, cousins. Come on. But still. Distant cousins. As technically different family cousins, but say in the same ballpark. But anyways, yeah, it was very interesting. I really wasn't expecting Nina to just jump on board with the idea of joining Orsted's forces, but she does technically say she agreed on it, but she didn't was not really committed to it. But then she quickly transitioned to talking about Gino. So there was a side of me that almost believed that she was talking about committing to saying something to him. But I do like this because it is really her going out there, finding Edis, realizing that Edis found a lot of happiness, and she wants to be in that category too. So it's her realizing that, okay, Edis was really strong, and she found happiness this way, and she still hasn't given up her sword, so why can't I do that too? Like, I'm in the same boat as her. Say something. Find that happiness too. So literally seeing Edis, she finally chose, just jump, just go do it. So she does. So it's really great. So congrats to Nina. But again, I'm curious if she'll actually join this idea that... Now, the question mark here is, what is Rudius' expectations here? Is he literally just saying, join this idea of helping Orsted and he'll help you, and it's going to be in 80 years? So everybody's like, yeah, sure, we'll help you with that if I'm around 80 years from now. And so she just agreed to it thinking, okay, yeah, if I'll be like, almost 100 years old, but sure, that sounds good. I'll be there. I'll be ready for it if I'm still around. Or is that a case where they're signed up to join the whole mercenary band? Like, is this like a sign up thing for that as well? That's a question mark there, because that would be cool. If as he's contacting all these people, if he signed them up for the actual mercenary band, then that means that if he ever needs them for something else, he can contact them and say, hey, this is part of this whole ordeal that Orst is facing. Help us with this. Nina gets the contact for that, rushes out there, and is able to help him with something. I'm kind of curious about that. But again, cool little chapter here. Nothing really to pick apart besides just her kind of being conflicted about happiness and relationships, and being so focused on your blade that you're seeing that everybody else is happy but yourself. And yes, her disconnection from society, really. But anyways, let's move on to Interlude, Coming of Age Ceremony. Yay, it's a sister chapter. I always like sister chapters. Let's talk about Rudius' younger sisters. Norm was working hard as a student council president. For most students these days, she was the only one to come in mind when you mentioned the title. That's very interesting kind of mention there. Though that was mostly because anyone around when Ariel held it had graduated. I don't know how that's possible. If Ariel only graduated and left, like, literally, a couple of years ago? And it's usually like 7 years. I mean, that's like a 5-year, probably around 5 years. Like, anybody that was in those first 5 years of being in the school would still know who Ariel is. Like, only a small fraction of the student body is people that would have left since Ariel left. So it's kind of weird. I would more say that that's a tribute to Norn, that people have moved on and that they now respect her. It's pretty cool. Norn was a popular president. A lot of students would even call her Norny. Norn didn't seem to appreciate that, but it was sweet. Ariel had the reputation of being a reliable president, but Norn had the reputation of being approachable. That's actually that technically makes sense to me, that people are a lot more able to walk up to Norn and ask her about something versus Ariel. I think Ariel had sort of an aura of a princess. Well, she was a princess. An aura of somebody you can't go anywhere near. Untouchable. However, and this may be due to the fan club's influence, she had zero romantic prospects. She was also treated as something of a mascot for the school. Harmless, inoffensive, sexless. Jeez. There's a good chance that that's probably by choice. Norn ain't got time for none of that, except for all that artwork that was coming out during the second season. Of course, she worked hard at her studies as well. I think it's just more, jokes aside, it's more in the fact that she just is so focused on getting better. She is so focused on her studies. Of course, she worked hard on her studies as well. The other day, she was recognized as intermediate tier in Sword God style. Really cool. Cool stuff there. Her progress might have been a little slow, but that might be what normal people are like. She was also pretty studious about her magic and took plenty of other classes. She was never quite the best at anything, but she applied herself to a broad range of subjects. On Aisha's side, she was pretty stuck on Otis lately. While it was true that Edis's rough mothering skills had been showing up in his behavior, Aisha found the baby boy adorable and she doted on him. It looked like she had a favorite. She started a habit of saying how cute he was. Of course, pampering a baby was fine, but there was parts of it that worried Rudius. This goes so wrong so fast. Maybe she was into him a little too much. Just recently, when Otis cried out in hunger, she exposed her own breast to feed him and tried to get him to suck on them. Her defense was that she thought he'd stop crying if she gave him something to suck on. But still, Otis did cheer up and started laughing while sandwiched in her boobs. So it made some sense. Still, Rudius was concerned, thinking about how she had nobody to expose herself besides a toddler. This is something that here lately in this chapter, I am starting to feel something extremely uncomfortable about Aisha. My heart is really breaking for this girl. I mean, that's sort of been the conversation around Aisha for the longest time, is that at what point is she going to either give up or Rudius is going to say, okay, I will marry you too. I will bring you into my harem. I will take you in just like Lilia wants me to, and Lilia was able to do with Paul. I will bring you in as the maid. This is something that Aisha has been literally groomed into being since she was a child. And yes, at some point, Aisha in her own head came to accept it as something that she thought was a good thing. At some point, she realized, thank you, Mom, for making sure that I was so good at this, because now I realize how cool he is, how amazing he is, and now I want to get in there. I want to do exactly what you told me you wanted me to do, because now this is the perfect opportunity. Lilia's given the okay. Aisha wants it. And now, with this chapter, Aisha is now of age. But everything up until this point, and even in this chapter, has been showing this sign that Aisha, that girl is starting to seemingly question if she's going to keep waiting. And I'm kind of like this point where I'm like, I hope this whole thing around the mercenary guild and this mercenary band is going to finally give her something else to focus on, so she gives up. Like, if Rudius is never going to accept her, which I'm on the side of saying that he should. But if he doesn't feel anything for her, that's obviously not a good thing. Now, he can accept her love. It's just he's not going to be able to have much physical love for her. Or at least that's what he's said so far, is that he has no physical attraction to her. So he's not going to be able to reciprocate that side of the whole thing. Now, it could always come down to him just trying it and then seeing if something happens. But either way, if he's not going to do it, send her on her way. Because it's kind of unhealthy that she is never going to find love because she's so dedicated to him. He knows it. I mean, he shouldn't be oblivious to that. This is something that she wants and this she's goading for. So make it clear so she can move on. It's starting to get uncomfortable because now it seems like, unless she's thinking about something else, I draw the conclusion from in this segment that she's needing something. The whole thing with Otis, I mean, yes, it could be innocence. That she's like, well, this is something that makes him quiet, so why not? She doesn't see that it's uncomfortable or that it's wrong, so she's going to do it. But yeah, there is a twisted side of me that kind of wonders, is she doing it because she's not getting it from Rudius, so she might as well get it from somewhere else? Or she's trying to send signals to Rudius that I want this. Rudius, I want this right here. I could do this. Please give me one. I mean, there's a lot of things here that I'm kind of wondering. And yes, there's a small segment of me way over here where I'm like, is she hoping one day that she can snatch up Otis? Hey, if Rudius won't come to me, I'll take his son. I mean, the moment he becomes of age, she's going to be 30. I mean, she's not going to be too old. Lilia looks really good for her age. Anyways, I'm going down like 15 tangents right here. She was handling the mercenary band well. When Rudius declared that mercenary band would serve as Orsted Corporation's intel network and that it would span the world, she didn't even need to have an explanation. She got to work gathering the personnel and negotiated to build branches in the other nations. She was also good at keeping the leash on Linnea and Presena. Now, Aisha herself wasn't particularly gifted as a manager. Rudius heard that she tended to come down hard on the unskilled employees who repeated mistakes. Yeah, that seemed to be something that she didn't like. I mean, that was the case with Linnea. She did not like her messing up more than once. It was Linnea and Presena that brought the best out of those employees. Still, strengths and weaknesses. Aisha was the brains of the operation, and she was good at it. Both Nora and Aisha were approaching their 15th birthday. Every 5 birthdays was a milestone that was met with great celebration, especially 15, at which point one was considered an adult. Nobles would frequently celebrate this with a massive party. The coming of age ceremony to humans of this world It was perhaps the most important day of their lives. For this reason, Rudy's planned to celebrate both their birthdays, and big this time. He'd get a lot of cash from Orsted, blow it all on the biggest building, hit up every friend and bigwig, get them to supply sweet gifts, and give those girls the complete princess treatment. He's such a big brother. And with that level of excitement, Rudius brought it up to Roxy. I don't know about Aisha, but I think Nora would be happier with something a bit more practical. Maybe you should rethink it. He was shot down. He's like, at this big party, we're gonna have big explosions. We're gonna have monster trucks, a big explosion, monster trucks, and we have these ladies with the signs and everything. And then she's like, oh no, we shouldn't do that. And then it all kind of deflates behind him. Basically, they weren't royalty, so a party at home would be plenty. Afterwards, Roxy patted his head. You want to go all out with their birthdays, because you'd never celebrate your own 15th birthday, right? Reese didn't really give a damn about his own 15th birthday, but Roxy was giving him head pats, so he wouldn't object. Still, moderation could be good in its own way. Roxy opened his eyes to that. For now, we should talk to the rest of the family and come up with a way to celebrate. So, they planned a secret family meeting. He's gonna have a secret family meeting. He's got monster trucks and all this kind of stuff, and then she deflates it, and she's like, then we need to have a secret meeting. And then everybody doesn't want to have the secret meeting. In the veil of night, they met in the basement. The entire family, besides Aisha and Norn, gathered around a dim, lone candle. Welcome, my accomplices, to the assembly of dark... Rudy, can we get some more light? It's hard to write like this. Secretary Roxy interrupted Rudius' dramatic opener to complain. He wished that she respected the mood. I mean, if there's light leaking out the door, then Aisha's gonna notice us. Why do we need to hide it to begin with? What else would we do? It'll be much harder to prepare if we have to hide the fact that we're doing it. Unless we have a good reason, I much prefer we tell them in advance. Lilia was right. It made sense to come clean with it. That would make it less stressful. It was true. They didn't need to hide it. Rudius' own 5th and 10th birthday were surprise parties. I wouldn't see the 5th one. The 10th one was supposed to be. The 10th birthday party, Edis was trying to throw a surprise party, but Rudius knew. He's seen her working on it, and they were all getting frantic, and even when Ghislaine was supposed to keep him busy, he was like, oh, wow, whatever could they be doing? But I don't know, I guess the 5th could be a surprise. I mean, it seemed like everybody was preparing in the house, and they were cooking up something big, at least from the anime perspective. I don't remember exactly what the novel kind of laid it out as. His own 5th and 10th were a surprise, so he had preconceived notions that birthday parties were planned in secret. Given what happened last time, Nora and Aisha had probably picked up by now that they'd celebrate it. There wasn't any reason not to tell them. Alright, we'll just tell them that we're planning something. They might as well go whole hog. That way, they'd be less worried when buying presents. Aisha was friends with everyone in the market, so if they thought Rudius was being suspicious, they'd wind up telling her that he bought her some cute panties and blow their cover. Of course, he wasn't going to buy them panties. It was just an example. He certainly wasn't thinking about how he bought Sylphie some panties, only to have Aisha poke fun at him. Edison spoke up. But we should at least keep the present secret. Everyone nodded to that. I agree, but I also think that we should decide on what we're getting them, so we all don't get the same thing. So let's discuss what we planned on getting them while we're all here. Lilia planned to get a handkerchief for Norn, and an apron for Aisha. Sylphie was getting a book for Norn, and a quill pen for Aisha. Roxy, a custom set of armor for Norn. That was so good. I have to admit, the custom suit of armor was really good. That one wrecked me. And a magical gardening shovel for Aisha. What would be a magical gardening shovel? Roxy's got like these major connections to like the blacksmiths and the magical implement people. A magical gardening shovel. Is it a shovel of unending dig? Like a maximum durability? It easily breaks through earth. Maybe it lowers the weight of what you're shoveling. That would be cool. Edis was getting a baldric for Norn and a belt for Aisha. Everyone seemed to have given a lot of thought to their gifts. Rudius planned to give a figurine of Paul to Norn. I don't know why he thought that was going to be a bad thing. Norn loved Paul. If there was anyone that she wished could see her grow up, it was Paul. He may get some strange looks for the gift, but he'd cross that bridge when he got to it. That's a really good present for her, actually. I mean, it's just like the figurine of Rajerd. She loved that. She stole it. For Aisha, he was at a loss. He didn't know what she wanted. He did know that she was into cute things. It might have been hard to imagine, based on her rough, competent exterior, but she was obsessed with all things girly. She loved frilly clothes, sparkling accessories, and everything in between. Something like that would work as a gift, but she was earning money, so she bought everything that she wanted and when she wanted it. Yeah, what do you get for somebody that has everything they want? Enlighten me. What gifts made you all the happiest when you came of age? Lilia started. It was quite a long time ago, but I received a hair accessory from my parents. It was their way of telling me to at least attempt looking ladylike. Gosh. Reese wasn't sure what kind of person Lilia was when she was 15, but he heard that she wasn't exactly the type for high fashion. She did grow up in a training hall. That poor girl. Gosh, Lily had such a bad childhood. Lily had such a bad childhood. Damn it, Paul. I forgot the day I was born, so I have no... Oh, right. Ariel's group gave me plenty of stuff, like clothes and shoes, so Sylphie got clothing-related stuff. She typically dressed pretty plainly and boyish, so they probably gave her stuff to dress up while in private. I don't have much. The Midgard tribe never had that sort of custom. That was fair. For the record, Reese gave her a hat as a wedding gift, so she could have given that example. No, you asked what you get when coming of age, not your wedding. Why would she give the hat as an example when that's not her coming of age ceremony? But yeah, I guess the question mark would be, does the Midgard tribe even have a concept of... well, she said that they don't have a custom of a coming of age. But do they have something similar to that of like maybe a point in their life in which they are seen as an adult? That's the question mark. Let's see. I had Reserve recognize me as a warrior, and Rias gave me, the thing. Edis did, indeed, get the thing. It was a bit too embarrassing to say out loud, but that was the first time Edis and Rudius did the thing. Speaking of which, Aisha did seem fond of Rudius. Perhaps she'd be overjoyed to receive the thing. No, on second thought, Rudius could never do that exact thing to Aisha. But perhaps it could be a nice present as long as it didn't go so far as to end in the thing. He can go to a seaside restaurant and have a toast to her beautiful eyes. Delight their tongues with whatever whims the chef prepares. Give her a Cinderella night that came only once in a lifetime. The thought of that made Rias a bit embarrassed. Again, it's kind of playing into it. Like, it's totally like just kind of playing into it. Like, yeah, she wants the thing. Should I give her the thing? Nah, I probably shouldn't give her the thing. But I'm going to keep just kind of dragging it on. It's like it kind of is frustrating to me. I guess the hope is that eventually she just gives up. I can't decide on what I want to give Aisha. Aisha seems like she'd be happy with anything that came from you. Sylphie said it with a chuckle. That might be true, but that made the choice all the more important. That was why he wanted to give her something that'd make her super happy. Maybe just shoot for a luxury gift? A 100,000 carat diamond? Orsa would tell Rudius where to go if he asked. He wouldn't hesitate, even if it was in the belly of Behemoth. I almost thought that we're going to do that. It's like he asks Orsted, he's like, yeah, there's going to be in one of those bellies. And then he's like, okay, to the beggar continent. Let's go. Let's see if we can one-shot this thing. Take it down. Why not give her whatever gift made you the happiest? Roxy's suggestion made it all click. She was completely right. I see. Then that's what I'll do. Regis nodded, finding his answer. He knew what the present would be. I was kind of surprised by this, but at the same time, from Marius's perspective, it makes 100% sense. Like, I understand why that's like the thing that made him the most happy. This is again a symbol of something that really changed his life. But at the same time, that being something that again would make her happy, unless she understands the context of it, I don't think that works that way. But again, it does technically come down to the idea of the intent is still there. After a few meetings, preparations were underway. They told Norn and Aisha that they'd throw them a party and to leave their date open. The two of them were happy to hear it. While Reyes expected Norn to say that she didn't want anything, she instead bowed her head, gave sincere thanks. It was rare to see Norn act so agreeable. But on second thought, she only ever snubbed Rudius at school. She had a reputation to uphold there, so maybe it was natural. I can see that, and I kind of like the idea that they're at least showing that Norn... I mean, with the whole graduation ceremony, it seemed like she was much more agreeable there. It's one of those ideas of she is acceptant of him and not pushing him away anymore, but at the same time, when it comes down to him causing a problem for, yes, in her role as student council president, she has to put her foot down. She can't treat him with some sort of, give him a pass or something just because it's her brother. She still has to do that. That's her role. But yes, it seems like outside of school, when she doesn't have that role to fulfill, it seems like she's much more acceptant of him. It seems like any barriers left are kind of gone at this point. I guess the key thing to put there. Reese expected Aisha to be more straightforward and start jumping around in excitement. However, she didn't. Instead, her eyes widened in surprise, and she murmured, "Oh right, I'm an adult now." A bit slow on the uptake. Given how smart she was, maybe something was on her mind. What, Rudius? What? What could be on her mind, Rudius? I do see that a lot of this probably is because she's so wrapped up in that mercenary band, and it's turning out to be something that is literally taking up her entire time. Again, She was probably 14, maybe like 13 when she took up the mercenary band. I don't know if it's been a year at this point, but this is all she's spending her childhood on. I mean, before then it was her being a maid, so it's like she doesn't even have a chance to be a child. And now suddenly you're like, oh yeah, you're an adult now. And it's like, well, crap, I totally forgot. I wasn't paying attention because I was too busy running your mercenary band. Perhaps you could take her aside during the party and give her some special adult lessons. Nah, let's not. Then stop messing with it, Rudy's. I almost feel... Refugin? I almost feel like the Refugion's trying to get the reader ready for it. I almost feel like the Refugion's getting the reader ready for it because Rudius hasn't done this for so long. I mean, every now and then it brings up like how she gives this flirtatious look at him. Very rarely does he go, yeah, she's filling out good. Like, she looks really good. Like, she's just like her mother. But he always says, I get nothing from it. I don't see her that way. I'd never touch that. Dad would kill me. All that kind of stuff. Right here, it seems like out of nowhere, these jokes are coming back in his head where he's going, maybe I should give it to her. Maybe I should get it. It almost feels like Refugion's getting the reader ready that he's going to have him finally accept her. Again, I kind of want that because, again, I just don't see the way that Aisha was raised that she's ever going to be able to part with him. And if she's always refused, she's going to eventually break. I don't know. Plus, I love Aisha. She's cute. Rias wasn't adult enough to call himself one with a straight face. If he started telling her what the world was like, anything he said would come back to bite him. They gave them a heads up, and so, all that remained was to wait for that special day. The day had arrived. Norm went to school as usual. Before leaving, she said that she'd be back as early as she could. She must have been excited. It has like one of those aspects of like, yeah, she probably doesn't like this whole party thing, and she's like, I'll be back. She's like excited about it. She actually wants it. Aisha left early in the morning to the mercenary band office, but she was home by noon. It sounded like she finished her work early. Rias thought that she'd come back carrying presents from the band members, but she came back empty-handed. You didn't get anything? I did tell them it was my birthday. Maybe it's because they're the Beast Folk, and they don't really know that custom. That said, she did have plenty of people congratulate her, so she seemed to be on high spirits. Hey, big brother, can I watch you set up? Yeah, of course. Aisha sat down in the dining room and watched absent-mindedly as they prepared the party. She watched Lilia and Sylphie go back and forth to the kitchen. Edis and Roxy returned from the market carrying groceries. Reese pitched in a little bit here and there, and with the decorations. She watched it all without saying a word. Being hovered over made the work hard to do, but she was the birthday girl, and he did tell her it was okay. Plus, she really did just watch. Aisha didn't really say anything to interject, just spaced out while they worked. Even Zenith sat down next to her and started patting her on the head. She said nothing and continued to watch. Even Leo rested his head on her lap, but she didn't pay him mind and continued to watch. Even when Ada started crying, she only left her seat for a short while before returning to watch. Even when Lucy came to ask her big sister Aisha to play together, she just smiled and said that she was busy for a moment and continued to watch. She watched, and that was it. Rias couldn't tell what she was thinking. Maybe she was contemplating everything that came with coming of age, or maybe she was chuckling about how clumsy they did their jobs. Either way, Rias couldn't tell. Eventually, dusk arrived. They completed preparations under Aisha's watchful eye. The dining room was decked out, all presents stacked in the corner. Atop the table was an array of foods, and the main dish would be started when Norm got there. Hello, I'm home. Norm's arms were wrapped around a huge, dangerously precarious bundle of presents. Her left hand carried a bouquet. Right hand carried a wooden box stuffed with everything from clothes, hair accessories, and mysteriously shaped artifacts. Sorry, I'm late. People started giving me a lot of gifts when I tried to leave. I planned to leave them at my dorm, but I couldn't fit them all in the closet. I thought I'd take these ones back to leave at home, but my bag ripped open on the way here. So moe clumsy. Damn it, Norn, stop being moe clumsy. I just have like that whole shot of Norn just like flopping on her face out in front of the house and just stuff scattered everywhere. Yeah, the bag ripped open. You totally didn't fall, did you, Norn? It sounded like a diverse throng of people had burdened her with an equally diverse variety of presents. That was how many people at the school wanted to wish her a happy birthday. I guess they didn't call her the approachable president for nothing. Rias was hoping that none of her admirers gave her something creepy, like Cookie with strands of hair baked in. Welcoming Norn home, they got the party started. Like I said, I don't like this. There's just something about Aisha just sitting there that just has me so uncomfortable right now. Now, again, I really do hope, unless I'm just missing something, or I'm missing a sign here that's super obvious and chat's going crazy. I really hope that if I'm not missing something, that there's something in the very soon coming chapters, because I really don't want this to weigh on my mind for volumes on end, trying to figure out what's going on with Aisha. I don't think she's in a good spot. I just kind of wish they went right into her having an internal dialogue or something like that. Just, this is what she's thinking about. This is what she was really thinking about. Ruiz can't figure it out. This is Ruiz's perspective. He can't figure it out. But from the signals, I'm seeing that, yes, Aisha is going through a difficulty here. Now, later on, Ruiz assumes that because Norn came in there with all the presents, that Aisha was jealous. That couldn't be it, because she was sitting there staring at them before Norn even came home. It seemed like she was just caught in the moment. Now, I can play it in my head that, yes, back here, when he first mentioned it, she's like, yeah, it sounds great. She's actually excited for it, whatever, but she's not jumping around. I think right there is the realization, oh, I'm an adult now. I need to start thinking about my future. I need to start thinking about, is Ruiz going to accept me? I think right there, she was really kind of going, crap, yeah, I'm an adult now. I can't be treated like a child anymore. Now I need to start thinking about my future as, is Ruiz going to take me? Should I find another husband? I think that was probably what was going through her head right there, is really accepting that she is now an adult and that she should be seen as an adult. Let's stop messing around at that point. And yes, the whole thing with her being in the dining hall and watching Rudius and watching everybody setting up, that could be simply her just, okay, I'll just sit here and I'll watch them. I'll just watch them work and just relax. But it just doesn't seem right that she would just sit there. If she wasn't lost in her own head about the whole situation, about her becoming of age and everything like that, that she would just sit there. Now, I do agree that since she expected to see people at the mercenary band and them to congratulate her, and that she's seen nobody there, that she felt like nobody cares about her, and that would have been a bummer, but I don't know that that would be something that would keep her that down. That because the mercenary band people did not come in there and congratulate her and give her presents, that suddenly over here, when she's with her family and everybody's giving her these gifts, that she would just have fake smiles and yeah, oh God. I think that there's a difference between like something that is really bothering you that can really be overcome by something more joyous. And this is really making me believe that she could not find joy in that party. And I really do think it's really going to come down to this idea that I really truly believe she's now starting to question, is Rudius ever going to accept me? I think this whole thing right here is her wondering if Rudius is ever going to accept her. But yes, I do also see that by the end of it, she is happy. She's laughing. The band of mercenaries came in, which I think has become her new home. I really do think after this chapter, I'm starting to see that she's more comfortable with the mercenary band than she is in Rudius' house. And I think a lot of that has to do with Rudius not accepting her. I really do eventually think it's going to come down to this idea that she's going to no longer want to be a part of Rudius' house if he won't accept her. I think she's going to start hurting. I think she's right here getting to that point where she's starting to hurt. I am not being accepted by him. Should I stay here? I can't take it anymore. But when I'm with the mercenary band, I stop thinking about Rudius. I start having fun, and these people accept me. They look up to me, and they respect me. And that all seems to line up with this train. Again, she comes back from the band. She's kind of just spacing out, looking at them, probably thinking about that. Probably thinking about that contrast. And yes, also being a little bummed that nobody was there to celebrate her. But then yes, Norn comes in, and yeah, you could see the fact that she might be a little jealous there. But I don't think that really matters. Again, she can have whatever she wants. There could be definitely a popularity comparison there, and that could definitely bum her out. But the mercenary band shows up. So if that was the case, then she'd be perfectly fine. But still, at the very end, what happens still? What does it even mean to be an adult? She's still questioning. Even at the end, after everything's been resolved, she's still sitting there thinking and pondering on something. And I think that is all in a culmination of that same thing. Again, my prediction, she's starting to hurt. I don't want it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it because I'm unsure of Rudius and how he's going to respond to it. Because eventually she's going to say, Rudius, yes or no, I have to go. I don't know that she will, though. She's so sold on him. She's so groomed to it. And she's so in love with him. Unless over the last few years, she's changed her mind and she just doesn't have a dialogue for it. We haven't got a perspective from her. Anyways, welcoming Norn home, they got the party started. It was the same kind of birthday party that Rudius threw for them a few years ago. He gave an opening speech. Being 15 didn't mean things changed overnight, but they were now adults in the eyes of society. Or so his life advice went. It was a speech that he felt unqualified to give, but wound up giving it anyways. Somehow, he'd gone into know-it-all mode. With that introduction out of the way, the other adults talked about conducting oneself like an adult. Sylphie said that they wouldn't need to ask the family permission anymore, but they need to be responsible. Roxy advised them to never stop learning. Edis told them they should always have a goal. Lilia seemed more emotional than usual. She talked about Paul and Zenith's younger years, and about the day the two girls were born. While nearly sobbing, Zenith patted her on the head. I like this entire chapter is just Lilia bawling her eyes out over and over again. Did at some point Lilia just turn into an emotional wreck? And like she's got tears for days because she's been blocking it all for like all this crazy stuff that happened. Norn's face lit up into a smile when she saw the presents they gave her. She especially liked the armor that Roxy had made for her. Just for this day, Roxy custom ordered a set of armor that looked just like Paul's old set. That now hung in Zenith's room. It was resized to fit Norn's body and restyled to have, oh my gosh, and restyled to fit Norn's body and restyled to look more feminine. When she equipped Paul's trusty sword into the baldric that Edis got her, she looked like a full-fledged swordsman. Those two might have remembered when Norn once said that she wanted to be an adventurer. She reacted to the bust of Paul that Rudius made with a, at first, outright confusion. He was proud of his work, but it was a 30-centimeter tall statue made of stone, so he understood where she was coming from. He didn't realize while he was making it, but it was what modern society would have likely categorized as a dud gift. But this world didn't have photographs. After looking at the bust for a while, tears started welling up in Norn's eyes. Perhaps from memories of Paul it brought back. I'll treasure it, she said, accepting it. I think this... Again, that's a sad reality. I mean, he points it out right there, is they don't have photographs. They don't have video cameras. They don't have digital ways of saving memories. We have it so made, the idea that all we have to do to make a memory is hit our phone, tap the camera button, press the capture. Bam, you got a picture. You can always remember what somebody looks like. All you got to do is bring up that picture. You can print it out, stick it up on a wall, stick it up on the cloud, put it on every computer you have, make it your wallpaper. You'll never forget what that person looks like. They don't have that. The only thing that she had to remember Paul is his sword. That's why she wanted it. She wanted to stick up on her wall. She wanted to remember Paul. And so it is a sad reality. Like for me, it's so hard for me to look at pictures of my father. It's like I have him. I just don't like looking at him. Not that I want to forget him, because I always remember him. I just don't want to look at it. It hurts. And after so long of not looking at them, I'll forget what his face looks like. Forget his personality, whatever. And so for Norn to actually have the ability to look over at a statue, again, is pretty much their pictures. Yes, he could have some art drawn of him, but Rudius doesn't know how to draw, seemingly, so he's going to make a figure. So if he can create something that's equal to having a photograph sitting on her counter that she can look at and remember what Dad looks like, that's huge. Having the ability, I mean, that was the same with the Reserve figurine. She probably was like excited the idea that she now remembers what Reserve looks like because he was starting to forget. It's the same thing here. I can finally see what Paul looks like every time. I'll never forget what he looks like. When they all finished, Norn addressed them. Thank you very much. I'll do my best to be an adult going forward. I'll do my best to be an adult. Adulting! I hope that you all support me the way you always have. You're the best. Her heart was bursting with emotion, but she put it beautifully. Her words made Lilia crumble in tears yet again. Norn, you've really grown up. Lilia can't take it. It's like her baby grown up. Like, again, Aisha and Norn are like her children. They're the sister wives. Every child is theirs. Aisha seemed happy too, but Reese felt something was wrong when he looked at her. She didn't wince or show any obvious displeasure, of course. For every gift she got, she thanked everyone by saying, "Wow, amazing, it's so cute, thank you." Or she'd express delight by saying, "It's just what I've always wanted." On the surface, Aisha seemed to be enjoying the party as her normal, cheerful self. So what was wrong? Best way to describe it, really, was that something felt off. To Rias' eyes, Aisha looked a bit detached, as though her smile and laughs were forced, like it was all an act. Maybe it was how she acted that afternoon that made Rudius feel that way. With his suspicion still high, he gave her his present. A pendant. The Midgard pendant was in Roger's possession, so this was a replica. It was handmade too, making it neither expensive nor a genuine article. Aisha, this was something that was given to me to commemorate my own path to becoming an adult. It might not mean anything to you, but I wanted to give you this as a symbol of your adulthood. He was aware that this gift meant more to himself than it could for anyone who received it, but for some reason, he wanted to give it to Aisha instead of Norn. He didn't know why, but when they asked him what gift made him the happiest, this is the first thing to come to mind. Oh, thank you. There was no life behind her eyes. Her expression was blank. Deep in thought, she turned the pendant over and over in her hands. They enjoyed the rest of the party, main course and cake. Once the sun had finally set, students started to come by to leave Norn presents. It seemed like they only found out today and scrambled to buy something that they could. Wait, hold on. Go back. Back up. Couple steps back. Again, I think she wants something from him. I think this is literally like a breaking point for her. If it doesn't turn out this way, I'd be super shocked. I don't see him giving her a gift. Which like they mentioned earlier, whatever he gives her, she's super excited about. I don't think this has anything to do with the mercenary band. I don't think this has anything to do with Norn getting a bunch of presents. I think that's going to be back in the back of her mind. The fact that Norn came in with a bunch of presents and sat him down, I don't think she's still thinking about that after everybody's giving gifts and they're having a party and everything and they give all the speeches. She's still not thinking about, crap, Norn got more presents than me, or nobody was at the mercenary band. She's thinking about, I didn't want this as a gift. Or, what am I doing? Those are the two things, again, that have stuck in my mind. Rudius, I wanted something else from you because I've come of age. Or, I've come of age, and what am I doing? Rudius obviously does not want to accept me. I need to move on. What am I going to do? What have I been doing? And again, I can see there's that third option there that I mentioned earlier, that she could, in culmination with 2, start to feel a lot more comfortable at the mercenary band. And nobody was there. I don't like where this is heading. I don't like where this is heading. Oh, my heart breaks for this girl. Ugh. Which sucks because that is the gift. I like that he at least acknowledges this means so much more to me than it ever is going to be for anybody else. No crap. And I completely acknowledge that, yes, this pendant means a lot to Rudius. He went, or at least the original one. Again, this is a symbol of the Midgardian tribe. And Roxy, because Rudius meant so much to him, and because her time in that house was so special to her, she gave that to Rudius because he was special to her. And that is basically a symbol of his master. This is her pendant of her family. The pendant that was given to me by the person that took me out of this cave that have been inside for 30 years? Most of my previous life, and even into this new life. I've been stuck in there, and she brought me out of it. And even when he was transported, going to the Midgard village and being recognized there, getting connected with the family, then using it to basically create the concept of the dead end, and eventually giving it to Rajerd because Rajerd became so special to him. He passed it on, and now he's given it to Aisha. So I think it is something special that he's passing on, but yes, it's good to at least acknowledge, and yes, to make it clear to her, this might not mean anything to you, but this is something that is very special to me, and I want to give it something to you that symbolizes your adulthood. Which, damn, Roxy gave Rudius that necklace, and they ended up together. Now Rudius is giving Aisha that necklace, and they get together. There was a lot of students like that, and when they seen Rudius answer the door, a lot of them went pale. But no worries, he met them with a shining Rudius smile. Truly humanity's most universal greeting that didn't go well. The sight of his smile made their pale faces freeze in even greater terror, with some attempting to run. Sylvie caught them and safely delivered their presents to Norn. So many of them came by that eventually Norn's presents stacked up like a mountain. Aisha, on the other hand, didn't have any presents besides the ones they gave her. She was maintaining her facade, but it seemed a bit strained now, making her look deeply hurt in Reese's eyes. Again, I don't think that matters. I don't think it has anything to do with the presents. I mean, children can be children. I mean, at 15, I can see myself being jealous of my brothers getting more presents than me. But again, this is a different world. People have to grow up a lot faster in this world. And again, she's managing a mercenary band. She's pushed to grow up. Lilia pushed her to grow up. She's not like a 15-year-old of our world that's worrying about if she can make a TikTok that will trend or what kind of makeup she's going to wear the next day. You kind of get built different in a world like this. Rios doubted that anyone besides himself had noticed her smile was fake. He could be overthinking it. Aisha might not have minded the presents one bit, but bringing it up with Sylphie felt like a good idea. While he was considering what to do, Rios had noticed a huge group had gathered outside, and it was getting rowdy. The riotous chatter was broken up by Leo's sudden barking, and Edis grabbed her sword. Was Orsa coming by? No, there was too many people out there. Orsa wasn't the type to draw a crowd. I mean, he might be able to now. He might be able to now. He's outside there. He like literally just opens the door and there's this crowd, like the entire mercenary band's out there. And in the front is Orsted. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Aisha. Happy birthday. Anyway, sorry. Happy birthday, Aisha. And then out of nowhere, Bodyguard comes busting out from the back room. I come with a bang. Anyways, no, there was too many people out there. Orsted wasn't the type to draw a cloud. Stepping outside, Rudy saw a mob of miscreants closing in on his home. Their frames were bulky, fur thick, fangs bared. Each of them draped in a plain black coat. A fearsome bunch. That said, many of them looked pretty beaten up, some injured. Leading the pack was none other than the town's most diabolical duo. It's your fault, Linnea. Screwing up at the end of the job yesterday made us start late. Yeah, but you're the one that dumped it on me, Priscilla. There you go again. Blaming anyone but yourself. Trust me, Linnea, it's all your fault. Coming from the one who was supposed to track down the priest's scent, but then dragged us to a random barbecue? That's rich, Nya. Your screw-up was the reason that it took us so long to take down that hog, Nya. Yeah, it's their fault for camping out there. Sound like they've had a day. Sound like they have a day. It was Lenny and Priscilla. As usual, they were at each other's throats. But this time, they were just bantering. The people around them seemed used to it. They kept their hands behind their backs in a parade rest. Ah, boss. Nya? All hands salute, Nya. At Linnea's belated command, her followers bowed in unison. At that moment, Ruth seen behind them a gigantic mound atop wooden boards. Boss, we're here to celebrate our advisors coming of age, Nya. We were out in the forest since yesterday, bagging this. It was a gigantic monster, one that resembled a boar that lived in the forest. Wait, were none of you guys at the office today? Don't sweat it, Nya. We left the minimum amount of people to keep the lights on, Nya. Yep, we scheduled it so that pretty much nobody had to work today. Which meant that Aisha came home early because the office was nearly empty. She went with excitement to celebrate her birthday, but there was nobody to celebrate it with, and no work either. She thought the people would come if she waited, but by noon, nobody had. Yeah, she couldn't be faulted for getting existential over it. Yeah, hey, advisor. Guys, the advisor's here. Rios turned to find Aisha standing behind him. She looked absolutely stupefied by the huge boar and the mercenaries on her doorstep. What is this? Advisor, happy birthday. At Priscilla's words, the mercenary band all bowed once again, bellowing congratulations. It echoed loud enough for a neighborhood noise complaint. It was like watching a Yakuza ceremony, except for the person that everyone bowed to was a little girl. Aisha let out a laugh. It was as though the sight had broken her grim mood. You don't expect me to eat that? Saying it aloud made her crack up even harder. The mercenaries were being laughed at, but they took it well because of how happy Aisha was. Every one of them, Aisha included, looked relieved and full of joy. After spending all day having Norn's popularity shoved in her face, Aisha realized that she was equally popular in her own corner of the world. But again, this was before that. Aisha didn't know anything about what Norn was getting. Now again, she technically ran into the mercenary band, nobody was there, but again, that could have bummed her out enough there, but she wouldn't be comparing herself to Norn at that time until Norn came home, is my point. Hey, big brother, since they're all here, is it alright if we all eat in the lawn? Reese glanced at the mercenaries, some wagging their tails and at the suggestion. Reese was an expert in beastful etiquette, but when any species of hunter brought home quarry to your house, they didn't just hand over the game and walk away. Everyone was supposed to join in the party. That went double when those hunters' stomachs growled and their jaws dripped with drool. Yeah, of course. Aisha's smile stretched ear to ear. Everyone joined the cookout in the front lawn. Even some of the students who came for Norn found themselves roped in. We're here for Nis Norn. Wait, what are we doing? What are you guys doing? You're here to celebrate with Aisha, right? No, we're here for Norn. Whatever. Come over here. Celebrate with Aisha. Even some students, they're like all in there with, like I said, they're all in these black suits. Anyways, the boar that the beast folks brought was roasted whole. Drinks were brought in by an old man who Aisha helped back in the shopping district. Norn's side, as a get-together, was far removed from the quiet ceremony they had. Note that Norn carefully kept displeasure from showing on her face and refrained from saying anything that would rain on the parade, probably out of consideration for Aisha, who was having the time of her life. The cookout continued for a while, but once the mercenary band had gorged themselves, people decided to call it a night. As the crowd thinned out, Ruiz heard Aisha mutter to herself, "What is even an adult?" In contrast to Norn's contentious weighing of her own adulthood, Aisha's small question sounded childish. But hey, that's life. Adults come in different styles. Norn had her style. Aisha had hers. If you were who you were supposed to be and managed to stay true to yourself, then you were doing all right. Yeah. What is even an adult, huh? Ruiz didn't feel like he needed to put up a front for Aisha, and that was how Aisha and Norn turned 15 years old. I'm still questioning it, even though it seems like she's got happy because they all showed up. Again, even in the end, she hears Aisha mutter to herself, "What even is an adult?" It's like she's been questioning that the whole day, and she's wondering what it even means. And yeah, I can technically, because of how happy she gets at the end here, again, he's talking about how she just, even Norn doesn't want to say anything because it seems like Aisha's having the time of her life. And again, I think that's really, and this could be a good sign, again, if the whole prospect here is that Ruiz will never, ever reciprocate her love. It's always going to be one-sided. And eventually, I think this might be setting up for that. This idea that she finally has something that she can go to and find a new home. Again, there's a side of it that almost makes it difficult that she ever moved in with him, which is okay because they're supposed to be siblings and she wasn't an adult yet. She needed a place to stay. It's not like she could, where else was she going to go? So, I mean, she could have gone to the university, but she didn't want to go there. She wanted to be with Rudius. Now she finally has technically a different home, and that might give her that outlet to get away from Rudius, and this might be a sign of that she is becoming more connected with her band than even her family. But again, I don't see her seemingly faking her smiles for everybody in that household just because people weren't at the mercenary bands. She can be upset about that and bummed out, but I think that she would get over that eventually and just enjoy the moment. So it does, again, show me the sign that I think that there's something going on with Aisha that is even deeper, that she is having some sort of crisis here in her mind about growing up, which I think everybody should go through. Everybody's going to go through. Everybody's going to have that moment where they realize, is this my future? Crap, I need to start moving in a direction. Is this a direction I want to go into? What is my future? Is the mercenary band for Rudius my future? It seems like she enjoys it. She enjoys the people there. So it does have that benefit that it's something that she wants to do. But could this be that moment that she's actually starting to question that? Because that is a massive change for her. I do like that the later part right here, it does seem like Rudius is sort of seeing that both Norn and Aisha see adulthood differently. And the idea that it basically say Norn's contentious weighing on her own adulthood in comparison to, again, Aisha's small question sounding childish. It's fine. Like what you see that future is or what you question it to be is not, every person is going to see it differently. And I would even argue, in contrast to what they're even telling Norn and Aisha right here, is always be true to yourself. I do like that each one of them kind of gives their own perspective on what they should expect being an adult. Like Roxy advising them never to stop learning. Edis saying always have a goal, which technically makes Roxy the teacher says never stop learning. Edis the person that, yes, became very single focused to focus on getting stronger for Rias, always have a goal. Lilia seemed more emotional, like she didn't have anything for it. I was going to say what Lilia's was. Sylphie saying they no longer needed permission, which I kind of question what that is. I would assume that's like, Norn wasn't even there but for those single days, so it's not like she ever really asked permission there. Maybe there's still something that they're requesting, or Reese is requesting Norn to request of them for permission for things. Who knows? But anyways, it was a good chapter. Again, I got what I wanted. I wanted a little bit more perspective into Aisha and Norn, which I guess is like, be careful what you wish for, because I asked for more insight into these characters. I got Nina out of nowhere, and then I get Isolde technically with that. And then over here, I get Aisha and Norn, which I wanted. But then be careful what you ask for, because now I'm questioning Again, I'm saying I want to have more clarity to Aisha here. Again, I might be reading too much into this. I don't think this is as simple as that the mercenary band wasn't there to congratulate her. I really think there's something else here, and I think she's really starting to question what her future is going to be. But anyways, that's those chapters. I'm going to wrap it up there. I hope you guys enjoyed this Mushoku Monday. As always, thanks, chat, for dropping by for the premiere. Hey, chat, hope you guys had a lot of fun. I hope you guys weren't too bad. I'm sure, like, every time I'm talking about Rudius, if he's ever gonna get with Aisha, the chat's just sitting there, and then Adrian's like, damn it, all right, you guys try me, I'm gonna delete those messages. If you say something, I'm gonna delete those messages. He's probably playing Final Fantasy 14 right now, and he's constantly having to switch back to the chat every time I talk about that. Anyways, a lot of fun. Definitely appreciate you guys dropping by again. Thanks to everybody that dropped by for the VOD later on. Make sure to hit the like button before you leave. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you get all my stuff. I appreciate you guys' support, all your kind words, spreading the word, telling your friends about this. Greatly appreciate your guys' support. Additionally, we greatly appreciate everybody that supports the channel monetarily through Patreon, tips, links, super thanks, memberships, all that stuff. It means a great deal to me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And until next time, until the next Mushoku Monday, y'all take care. The Migard pendant. The Migard pendant was in Roger. The Migard pendant. The Migard pendant. The Migard pendant. Just jump. Just go do it. Commit to it. Just ask.